Hi there, my name's Holly Hoffner, Berkshire Hathaway, and I have my friend Trevor here. He is a friend and client that um, sold his home, him and his wife's home recently, and it was a rental property. I had found a tenant for them, and the tenant was in there for a few years, and then now they're ready to sell, and we just got done with the sale. So thanks for joining us, Trevor.
Of
Um,
course.
Wanted to ask you some questions and about your experience of the sale during the pandemic of COVID-19, and just wanted to see if you found selling your home during the pandemic different than any other selling experience in the past.
Yeah, no, it was definitely different. And, obviously with having a tenant in the home, somebody who wasn't as vested in us moving the property, it added to additional challenges. But there's also a heightened sense of awareness of virus spread and those types of things. So open houses were obviously more restricted and showings were a little bit more coordinated. But in the end, we used some different technology things, which I'm sure you'll get to help us get to where we needed to do. And that was selling the property in a quick, timely, and painless manner, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought it was a good transaction. Um, what do you think we did well to get through the tenant situation? And if overall in the end, do you think she was pleased with how we handled everything with regards to showing and inspections and things, since she did have an autoimmune disease as well?
Yeah, so I mean, just to give a little bit of perspective for the people who are potentially buying this video, we listed the house 10 days before Governor Ducey submitted the stay-at-home order. And so it was kind of right before things got a little bit more serious. It wasn't like right in the heart of it, but then it got really serious really quickly, especially with a tenant that had found a property on her own and was looking to move and make a purchase elsewhere, and that did have a compromised autoimmune system, and therefore we needed to do showings with masks on, with gloves on. Even at that time, before masks and those types of protocols weren't really in place, either from the CDC or the local and federal governments. But it was something that she required, and ultimately it was the advice of her doctor to not allow for showing. So then we had to get really creative.
Yes. Um, so the technology that we used, the marketing and the technology, were you pleased with that? We had done a Zillow 3D walkthrough video and another video that I did with just my phone because we kind of were under a time crunch, but I just wanted to see if you were happy with how all that worked out.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the video that you did with your phone alone was kind of I guess it was the golden arrow in our quiver. And it was the one that ultimately landed us not only the offer and the ultimate buyer of the property, but it also increased interest from, a decent amount of foot traffic to start in the first week or two, to then kind of accelerated and moving it from a traditional MLS listing with still shot photography, but also social media footprints and those types of things, into something that was a little bit more interactive, gave a little bit better perspective on the house, and seeing some of the more intricacies, maybe angles that the buyer wanted to see that they don't see on the still shots. And like I said, ultimately was what provided a sight unseen, minus the video, of course,
Mhm.
offer for the property, and ultimately the offer that we accepted and that went through escrow to close.
Right. Oh, also associated with the buyer, everyone worked really well together, I thought. And so in the end, at closing, you were one of the first clients who had experience using the virtual notary signing system to sign your closing documents. Can you explain how that went?
Yeah, so it's it was kind of funny how we got there. So I was talking with a good friend of mine in Illinois, somebody who actually used to live here in Arizona, and we were kind of going through the idea of legal documents and these types of things. I work in technology, he works in technology, and he had mentioned in the state of Illinois that they had gone to a virtual notary system. He was going through some things in his personal, trusts and whatnot, and so he virtually notarized, and my wife and I brought it to Holly's attention, and Holly said, "Hey, let me look into it," and worked with the title company and through escrow, and we were able to find that through the state of Arizona, I think it was close to the beginning of April, Governor Ducey had authorized virtual notary to be a legal binding process. And, per Holly's comment, we were the first ones to go through it with her. And it was awesome. I mean, it was for somebody who has a wife who's been very concerned through the pandemic and tends to be germophobic as it is even outside of this. It was really tough for her, both either thinking of going to a title office or having a mobile notary coming into our home. It was a tough thing for her to wrap her arms around, going through that, even with an N95 mask on and gloves. But ultimately, we found the virtual notary option, and it was a breeze. The notary was professional. She was timely. She gave us everything we needed to know ahead of time. It felt secure at levels that were almost frightening with some of the questions that they were asking to validate our identity, both photocopies of driver's license before the notary process, as well as showing them in the camera front and back during it, cross-referencing license numbers, everything. It just felt like it was really secure. It checked all the boxes to make it, obviously it's legal because the government says it's legal, but it felt like it was a very, very professional way. And to be honest with you, pandemic or no pandemic, it's probably the way that I would prefer to do notary services in the future. As I mentioned previously, we listed kind of in the early end of the pandemic. So, hindsight's 2020, and you look back and you're like, okay, knowing what I knew 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month later, like, when would I have listed the same way? Going through it, the answer would be a resounding yes. It's definitely a little bit different, and there's a couple more things that you have to, kind of watch out for bear traps. But ultimately, the transaction, the listing process, the showings, even with a relatively challenging situation, went through really, really well. And in the spirit of the great economy that we have in Arizona, and there was specifically in real estate, if you're thinking about listing right now, I would not be hesitant to do it at all. I think it's a great time to list. It's a great time to buy. I think it's important for us as Arizonians to continue to drive the economy and do those types of things. So don't be afraid of the pandemic, and go forward with your real estate listings or purchases, understanding that there's things that have been put in place to make it more comfortable and safe for everyone involved, the agents, the buyers, and the sellers.
Great. Thanks so much, Trevor. I appreciate your time and everything, and I look forward to working with you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Holly.
Thanks.